Morning. Welcome to the Joint Saxton Field Committee, Tuesday 19th of May. Special welcome to the committee members, and I will just open with karakia. Tue kia ranga, tue kia raro, tue kia roto, tue kia wharo, tue te he tangata, ka rangatau au, humie huie ta heke. Just some housekeeping. I don't think there's anyone on Zoom, but if you are, welcome. The meeting is being live streamed and will be on the TDC's YouTube channel. Please keep your microphones muted unless you're speaking, and hands up for questions. The toilets are out the fire exit, which is also the door we come through, and just on the left-hand side, I believe. The media are here. Welcome, Max. Nice to see you here. And for those in the gallery, there is hearing assistance available if you need it. We do have just one apology today from Councillor Kirby. She may join us later, but at this stage will be an apology, which I'm happy to move if I could have a seconder. Thank you, Kit. All those in favour, please say, do I need to move that? Yep. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. We come to item 3 on the agenda, and we welcome public forum. We did have 3 speakers listed, but we now have 2, and so I do welcome in this order Annie Marie, who's going to present first, and I assume Steve Fitchett will join you at the same time.
So it's 10 minutes.
Yep.
Given the ding at 9 minutes.
Cool. Well, Josh, are you going to come to the table as well? Yeah, cool. Just for clarity for the members, Josh won't speak now, but I'm sure if there are questions, he can answer them. Welcome, team. You have 10 minutes, and there will be a bell at 9, and then do leave some time if you have any questions for us as well. And I'm just noting they will be questions or points of clarity rather than kind of a conversation. But over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, Councillors and members of the committee. Kia ora, my name is Annie Marie Waitai and I am the General Manager of Nelson Netball. Firstly, thank you for the opportunity to speak today and thank you for taking the time to hear this submission. We recognise the responsibility councils carry in balancing the needs of many groups and appreciate the opportunity to contribute to this discussion. I would like to acknowledge from the outset that I was not personally involved in the original development of Saxton Stadium. However, I have spoken with those who were directly involved and have been updated by people who played significant roles in bringing this project to life. I believe it is important to revisit the history of Saxton Stadium because understanding why it was built and the commitments that underpinned it is critical to understanding why concerns are being raised today. Netball was the organisation that initiated the project and approached council seeking support to build a dedicated netball centre. As discussions progressed, basketball, volleyball and table tennis also joined the project. Other codes were asked but declined to be involved. While this eventually became a collaborative effort across several sports, it is important to recognise the scale of netball's contribution and leadership throughout the process. Netball was not simply another user of this facility. Netball was a driving force behind the creation of the stadium. Netball people played key leadership roles within the Saxton society that ultimately delivered the project. Roger Lettingham served as chair from the society's formation and remained in that role for 5 years following the completion of the stadium. Vicky Reid served as treasurer, and it is important to remember that this project was managed through the society rather than directly by the council. The responsibility for delivering a project of this scale sat heavily with those individuals. I have been told by several people involved at the time that without Roger and Vicky, Saxton Stadium may never have become a reality. However, this is not just about 2 people. Many individuals contributed years of volunteer time, energy and commitment to making the stadium happen. Countless hours were invested into planning, governance, fundraising and delivery. This was a project built through community effort and community belief, but netball's contribution extended far beyond people and time. Netball made a substantial financial contribution that represented a significant investment for an organisation of our size. These contributions included $200,000 from savings, a 33% ownership share of the pavilion, and netball equipment and scoreboard to support the operation of the facility. For a community sporting organisation, these are not minor contributions. These were substantial commitments and represented years of investment back into a shared vision. Netball contributed not simply as a future user of the venue, but as a partner helping to create an important regional asset. Throughout the project, there was a clear understanding that the sports involved would receive benefits in recognition of their contribution and investment. Those benefits included booking priority and a discounted hire arrangement. The evidence shows these were not unintended outcomes or informal understandings. They were always anticipated and were negotiated between the Society and Council as part of the project framework. These arrangements existed because the sports involved were not merely hirers of the facility, they were organisations that had invested heavily into creating it. Netball is the largest female sport, not only in Nelson, but nationally, and Saxton Stadium is an essential facility for us. It is critical to our ability to provide competitions, development pathways, and opportunities for participation across our community. Demand for the facility continues to grow and demonstrates the importance of ensuring the stadium continues to serve the purpose for which it was originally created. We fully support the points that have been raised by Steve Fitchett and the concerns already presented. User sports feel they have been disadvantaged by recent actions and decisions, and we respectfully request that the original benefits and intentions be reinstated. I would also like to raise one additional point. The booking priority reflected within the 2024 management contract does not appear to align with the original MOU, and we are now beginning to see the effects of that change. Saxton Stadium was developed because sports were regularly displaced from the Trafalgar Centre by events. Teams and competitions were being moved every 2 to 3 weeks, which creates ongoing disruption. Saxton Stadium was intended to solve that problem. It was established as a participation venue where sport would have priority and where regular users would not continually lose access because of events being scheduled. That principle was central to the vision of the facility, and as I understand it, was a condition of council's support. Yet we are now seeing situations emerge where participation sport once again risks being displaced. This appears to move away from the very reason the facility was created in the first place. In closing, I would ask the committee to remember that Saxton Stadium did not simply appear through funding and construction. It exists because sporting organisations, and in particular netball, invested heavily in it through leadership, volunteer effort, financial commitment, and years of work. Netball did not contribute because it was seeking a commercial advantage. Netball contributed because there was a shared vision of creating a long-term home for participation sport. A place where community sport would have certainty, where it could grow, and where those who helped build it would continue to benefit from that investment. Today, we are asking for that original intent to be honoured. We're not asking for anything new. We are asking for recognition of the significant contributions that were made, for the commitments that were understood and negotiated to be respected, and for the purpose of Saxton Stadium as a participation venue to remain at the centre of all future decisions. I thank you for your time and consideration. Ngā mihi.
Thank you, Annie Marie. We do have a couple of questions, and we'll come to Timo first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for your presentation. Look, I'm interested, you mentioned that increasingly your sports is being displaced by other events from Saxton Stadium. Have you got any thoughts why that might be?
I think that with the new contract in 24, which ignored the MOU when it was written, even though the MOU was in place, under the MOU, only sports basically were the priority in the stadium. when the contract was written, it was changed quite considerably. Sports lost their priority. They were listed as first, but added activities included commercial, community, and social events, basically. And that is in the process of happening at the moment to the disadvantage of two sports. They being, even though they had confirmed bookings, they are being bumped to enable that event. And that is what the problem was at Trafalgar Centre that actually caused us to go and build Saxton Stadium. We were getting bumped at Trafalgar Centre every 2 or 3 weeks.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you, through the chair, and I might mispronounce your name, Annie Marie. Annie Marie. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get a feel for how large netball is. So, do you have? Can you explain how many teams you have, or how many players you have, or how many? Just give me an overall brief of what netball is like here.
We have approximately 240 teams, and that's just our winter competition. So that's just our Saturday and Thursday. And then we have social leagues which run throughout summer, which can include up to 100 teams. So plus we have officials, we run holiday programs. So all up, our competition, we have probably 3,000 members, in excess of 3,000 members. So we're not a small organisation by any means, and that includes like all our volunteers, everything. So we have quite a big footprint essentially, and the majority, probably 95% of those are women. Yeah.
Just 2 quick questions from me. Can you just clarify? You said in your conversation there around the investment that netball originally put in. Now, can I just clarify? Was it 200k in financial contribution plus some extra funding towards the assets such as hoops and that?
Netball put 200 of cash in, 200k of cash, and then they bought one of the clocks on the wall, scoreboard clocks. They put in their own equipment, which is always an interesting one when you're putting in your equipment so somebody can hire the building to you. Always seemed quite interesting to me. And then they lost a third of the value because they had to give up the pavilion, which was football, netball, and the council. Somebody will know. Those 3 owned it in third shares, and they were required to give them that away.
Cool. And just one quick one, because we are over time. Blame the chair. The rates and the MOU are simply with the stadium rather than the outdoor netball courts as well? Or does it cover the netball courts as well? Because I assume there's a fee that you pay to use those. Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much. And we will now hear from Mr. Fitchett. Use your mic, please.
Oh, sorry, didn't I? First of all, apologies from the General Manager of Nelson Basketball, who's incapacitated at the moment and can't do this, so I get the job. I will also use the term user as defined in the MOU, which is the 3 sports, basically, and table tennis, who don't use the big stadium. Basketball wishes to speak in relation to 3.3 of the activity report before the meeting. This is a request for the renewal of the MOU. The MOU includes that user booking priority. Basketball is also concerned that nowhere in the meeting documents or the activity report does the request to reinstate the discounted and off-peak higher rate appear. And so on behalf of the users, I'm asking that the reinstatement of the discounted and off-peak high rates be added to the discussion on the MOU. At the previous meeting and in a submission to you, I set out the evidence showing the two benefits for the users. User sports were promised and granted to these sports. The benefits, the booking priority and the discounted rate, were then unexpectedly stopped by Council in 22 and 24. In November, when I asked the Council to reinstate the two benefits, the Council's response did not actually deny that the benefits existed. They acknowledged the booking priority that is in the MOU. They quoted a former senior manager and supplied me with the MOU when accepting that it existed. In regard to the discounted rate, they didn't say it didn't exist. They actually said they can find no record, quote, they cannot find, quote, a record of any formally agreed discount, unquote. The implication was that it didn't exist. The users acknowledged there is no signed document with all the parties. But like most council processes, there was negotiation. The council made a decision which was then communicated back to the society by Mr. MacArthur in 2010. The society accepted the offer and it was put in place. Council has not denied that the discounted rate applied for 12 and a half years. The council has not denied the discount was supported by documentation that now includes 3 present or past senior staff members, actually staff managers. In regard to the stopping of the benefits, I remind you that there was no consultation as required under the MOU. The council has been unable to provide any authorisation for stopping the benefits, and that's for local government requests, and they've provided no explanation. I was going to talk about the stuff that actually was in Timo's question, so I'll just quietly eliminate that as we go. The event bookings that are now possible under the 2024 contract are contrary to the stated purpose and intention of the stadium when it was set up. It was solely a sports stadium. And I guess what Arnie and Tim has alluded to shows why we are very keen to have the MOU reinstated. This doesn't mean the stadium will be empty, by the way. It just means that the sports will be in there and not some event. If a decision is made to reinstate the discounted and off-peak rates, I suggest that that should be included in the MOU, just to tidy things up. I would suggest a discounted rate of 12.5%. My working says the discount was initially set in 2010 at 14.23%. Over 12 and a half years, it averaged 15.2%. But the discount did not increase for the 2 years that the Trafalgar Centre was out of action and everything was moved out there. And that tends to inflate the average. So if I take those 2 years out, the average was 12.77, therefore 12.5 sounds like an appropriate number. In closing, I want to address a procedural concern. The activity report shows that the MOU renewal is to be discussed in confidential workshop. My understanding is that workshops should be, in the words of the Ombudsman, open to the public. The Ombudsman lists possible exemptions to having open workshops, none of which apply, in my opinion, in this case. They are to do with legally sensitive stuff, legally professional, privilege, sensitive personal information. None of those apply, I believe, in any decision about an MOU. They may apply after the decision of the MOU if there are consequential changes that are required. But the actual decision about the MOU, I don't believe should be in committee. So on behalf of the three sports involved, I ask that the workshop is open to the public as regards the MOU. If that option is not acceptable, I ask that I be given permission to attend the in-committee meeting on behalf of the sports. I've had this situation before at the Nelson City Council, and they voted to let me stay in a meeting because of the knowledge I had. The reason for this request this time is real simple. I believe I have the specialist knowledge, the institutional knowledge, whatever, the evidence. The users who built the stadium have no way, like we have seen nothing from council for this meeting. We don't know what they're saying. And to be blunt, council staff, because of the loss of institutional knowledge over the years, have in the last 20 months made a number of incorrect statements and assumptions because they just did not have the knowledge. Hence my request. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Fitcher. I have a question from Timo for you.
Yes, Timo has a question. I would like to draw on your institutional knowledge and understand a little bit more about the time when these discussions took place about building the facility. So we've heard a lot about the upfront capital investment that the users helped fund, but has there been any discussion at that time how the ongoing costs of running the facilities would be shared with the sports?
So right from, well, I think the first meeting was generated by Netball in 2004, would have been my recollection. And then the process went through. The council was always very clear that there would be benefits for the people involved. Only the four sports chose to be involved because there was a hell of a lot of time and effort, if you can imagine, because it was quite unusual. We built the damn thing. The council really just had a watching brief. But there was a clear understanding that those two benefits would come. Am I allowed to finish? And then obviously in 09 into 10, as the building was finished, it was opened in September, I think, or October 09. There were serious negotiations about those two things. Priority. The building was built for the sport, by the sports, for the sports. It was always clearly, you go back to all the paperwork through, it was those sports, from the occupancy, planning at the beginning, right through. It was clearly understood that it was for those sports. And the PR stuff, which was actually put out by Tasman.
I do have a question from Mike, so we do need to speed things up.
That clearly stated that was for these sports, it would be available to other sports when it wasn't being used.
Can I just clarify my question, please, through the chair?
Yep, be quick, because we have others as well.
But I don't know where else we get this information.
That's
otherwise.
fine, do ask.
So my question wasn't so much into what the intention was. It's more about the understanding at the time how the cost of running the facility would be shared.
The Nelson City Council took on that. They did the costing for the rates that were set for the highridge, and they knew what their percentages were, that they were going to get the whole lot, and the ones they weren't. Like some sports, we're paying a higher rate than the user sports. So it's in their budgeting. That follows the decision, I would have thought.
Thank you, Steve. Just one very quick question from me. Can you just clarify, I guess not the position of Nelson Basketball, but just what Nelson Basketball entails? We obviously have a semi-professional team within Nelson, but is Nelson Basketball simply just junior, senior basketball training? Does it include our semi-professional team? Can you just clarify what it covers?
Sorry, all that came under. So the Fulton Hogan League, yes, the Giants, although they hardly used it until recently, and normal, camps, everything. So yes, everything.
So I guess my point is, if the Nelson Giants hire the stadium, is that done through Nelson Basketball or through Nelson Giants directly?
My comment would be, it's actually, I can't answer that question, but
That's
I think
okay.
it's irrelevant in that they come under Nelson Basketball.
They do?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Cool. All right. So that brings public forum to a close. You can now return to the public gallery. Thank you. Sorry. I now just call, are there any declarations of interest for this meeting? There being none, if there are any conversations regarding Hockey Nelson, I will just hand the chair over to Mike if there are any questions, but there are no decisions to be made regarding that today. There are no late items, so we can confirm the minutes from the meeting held on Tuesday the 14th of April be confirmed as true and correct. Is someone willing to move and second those? Thank you, Kit. And Nigel to second, and also that the confidential minutes of that same meeting be held. Nigel and Kit, are you happy to move those as well? All right, thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. We now move to item 7, which is the report, and I will ask Debbie, David, and whoever else is presenting that report to come before the table. Maybe Jane, in fact. Grant.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you. There's no corrections to the report, but I should just say that I'm Jane and not Debbie. Debbie has finished and the report says it's got her name on it, but I am the person that gets to present it to you today and pulled it together. So hopefully I can answer the questions, but between us, we should be able to cover what you need from today, and we can come back to you with anything else. So I'll just run through it very quickly. It's a standard activity report that we present to you at each of the committee meetings that we come to you with. The difference with this one is that we do have a decision about the development plan for Saxton as part of it for an approval today. So in terms, I'll just draw your attention to a few things as I go through the report, and I'm happy to take questions either through the report or at the end whenever it makes sense. So in terms of updates since the last committee meeting, I just want to draw your attention to the fact that the stadium lighting is now completed and updated to LED, and we've now got a solar panel installed on the roof of that stadium. That's working as it should. For a capital projects update, this document lists the projects that are underway at the moment, and I just want to add that the fundraising for the regional skate park will be starting in July, so that'll be coming up shortly. At the last committee meeting, the committee asked for health and safety updates, so we've just listed a couple of items there that have been brought to our attention, and these items are underway in terms of us keeping, monitoring the health and safety and keeping the users of the area safe. In number 6 there, an operational update that just gives you some information about what work is currently underway as we move from the summer season to the winter season, and a couple of other minor updates such as the stadium floor being sanded and recoated since we last brought a report to you. For leases, there are 2 leases coming up or underway for renewal or new leases. That's the Athletics Club and the Archery Club. Both are minor leases, small leases that are being added to. The fees and charges for 26-27 are set by Nelson City Council, and there are new fees in place from the 1st of July. The activity management plan is what we are now working on as officers for the 2027 to 37 period, and there'll be a workshop with the joint committees on that on the 2nd of June. And then the last item is the development plan, Paul, and I might ask you to fill us in on that.
Sure. Kia ora. So the development plan is updated fairly regularly. I think this is probably the 3rd or 4th time that it's come to committee for an update, and we workshopped these items, I think it was 14th of April. So it's really just stating in the report here what has been updated. I won't go through them item by item, but there's a range of updates. Some of them are projects that have already been done and just the plans updated retrospectively, and other ones are just juggling things around to make a little bit more sense. And yeah, no major new developments from the last update. And just to reiterate that the development plan, adopting it doesn't commit us to anything. It's just a reference for the committee. It's mentioned in the reserve management plan that we should have a development plan, so we just keep it up to date. So it's new projects are generally workshopped with the committee and reported separately. I'm happy to take any questions on anything that's in the development plan, but there's a recommendation there that it's just adopted.
All right, thank you. We'll go through the report for questions from the committee. Can I just start with one, Paul or Jane? The regional skate park, you noted there that there's going to be some fundraising undertaken in July, and I just wonder, with the concept design there, I said we've got a landscaper or a contractor in place to do the design work. Would it be possible for the design, when it's made available, to be circulated to the committee members? I just aren't sure that we want to see things out being raised for in the community without seeing it as the committee members. So if we could see the design, that would be much appreciated.
Yep, certainly. I've received one in the last few days, and I'll just clarify that is the last version, that there's no more iterations or updates, and I'm more than happy to circulate that, and that would be the basis for the fundraising. They would use that just as something to show. So it's not necessarily what it's going to be built, but it's what they would use for fundraising.
Cool. And just another one from me regarding in the operational matter there, 6.2 with bollards getting installed along Kerry Marshall Drive into the football fields. Just 2 points, I think. Is that going to put a risk to accessibility for all users, and including those walking through from the footpath and the road, to be able to get onto the fields, or are we going to be able to set it up in a way that it is accessible to all parties, including wheelchairs and the like?
I might just ask Manfred to speak to that one. Manfred's our operational supervisor. He undertakes a lot of the minor capital works.
Hello. The bollards are being at a request of the suburbs, and it's more to keep vehicles off the playing surfaces to reduce the risk of interruption of significant games. There will be no hindrance for pedestrians, just for vehicles.
Okay, And just while you're here, Manfred, we have a question from Kit, and I may have another one too, but we'll come to Kit first.
Yeah. The recent damage that we had the other weekend, just north of the velodrome, northeast, kids and cars, from what I saw. Will we have some bollards there? Because at the moment you can actually drive up, because that was the path that was used to give access to do the work down on the main road. And they've driven in there and done quite a.
Yes, potentially at a later state. That's part of the plan, but due to budget constraints at the moment, we are focusing on the areas related to currently used by the suburbs. But at some stage, we will be looking at that.
Manfred, just one more from me, and then I'll come to Mike. When it's come from the request of Nelson's suburbs, are they going to be in a position to contribute with any finances towards this? My bigger picture here that I'm looking at is if we receive a request from one, there's a number of parties, not just in Saxton Field, but throughout the town, that may come up with that same request, and our budgets don't grow. Are they willing to contribute at all?
Potentially, yes. But my understanding is when we worked through some of the budget with Paul, there has been, I think every second year, I think we got a certain amount set aside for bollards and
So
security.
for the proposed, like the draft AMP budgets, which we've workshopped and we'll bring to the committee, joint council, we do have some additional budget included for bollards. Generally with the smaller upgrades like that, we wouldn't normally ask a code for contribution because its benefits wider than just the code. It may have just been a suggestion from suburbs pointing out whether the damage is happening, and the bulk of the cost comes to the councils to repair those damages. So,
Mike?
Thank you, through the chair, and this is probably for you, Jane. You talked about the solar panels. Could you enlarge on that a little bit? They've obviously got enough solar panels up there to cope with the needs of the stadium, and you've got batteries there. Do you actually put any solar power back into the grid?
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll probably have to come back to you with the exact size and capacity of the stadium, and I can see of the system that's been installed. I do have it in an email, but I've forgotten. From my understanding is the amount of panels on the roof enable there to be the battery to be charged, and it can operate for a period of time after the stadium is closed, but not after a power outage in the stadium's in use, but not for a significant amount of time. I think the way that it's set up, there hasn't been anything going back to the grid at this stage, and I can follow up with that as well.
Just not necessarily the size of the system, but I'm looking at, can we put power back into the grid? That's probably the single most question of them.
Kit?
Well, I think I've got 3 questions, possibly 4.
Yep,
So,
go for it.
Progress on Radio New Zealand negotiations. Any progress since our last meeting?
look, it'd be a matter that we'd have to bring to a confidential meeting. Any detail on the discussion, and I don't know, to be honest. I'd have to follow up and update the committee.
If that could be updated each time we meet, I think that would be useful.
Yep.
The next one is the basketball hoops. That to me is a renewal, and I didn't think they looked in too bad a condition, and I thought an engineer could have helped with a simple ram. But is Basketball Nelson being asked to contribute to that renewal?
Thank you. Through the chair, we haven't yet spoken to Basketball about the renewal costs.
And the final one is in relation to changes to artificial wickets. And I was a little concerned that maybe senior cricket wouldn't be happy playing away from their home venues. But I've had discussions with one club and rang another one, and they are quite happy, which actually surprised me. They were very keen on those two proposed wickets, so that's good news, because I thought there'd be a concern, but no, they just go back to the local pub that supports them with pub charities after games.
Timo?
Yeah, thank you. Paul, I've just got a question for clarification. You mentioned that the development plan does not commit us to anything. Can you clarify what is the purpose of the development plan, or are there any implications from us adopting it?
Through the chair, I guess what I mean by that is that it's a plan. It's a development plan. So we use that as a guide to develop our capital works program, and the capital works program is approved by committee. So it's a very useful plan for the community and staff and the committee to give a good guide on what's planned for the future and set out what's already been done.
Kit has one more.
Yeah, just in relation to what was raised earlier, and it's probably a question for governance, the reasons for going into confidential for that discussion on the MOU, I don't see how it's commercially sensitive, because they've provided all the information. I would have thought it could be discussed in open, because it's a relationship between the users, and it's been going on for a long time. And as demonstrated, they had an MOU and they've had a discount, so I don't see why it needs to be in confidential myself.
Yep. So just on that, there we'll have a discussion as a committee before we go for some of the kit workshop. We do need to go on to confidential, but we will have a discussion as a committee around that shortly. Mike?
Thank you. Through the chair, I might have missed this, but we're talking about Harakiki Green and the work that's going to go on there. Who's going to pay for that? Have I missed something in the report here?
That's a project that's currently in the draft activity management plan, so it's split into two phases. So it's split between the two councils, and there would be an expectation of a contribution from the two primary codes that would use it, which would be football and cricket.
That's it. Thank you very much. Good response.
Just regarding 6.6 here, that the emergency services have asked for unnamed roads within Saxton's field to be named, i.e. the ones that go past the velodrome. My assumption is, does that fall on a regulatory panel of NCC or TDC?
Thank you. Through the chair, we've only had a very brief discussion about this internally from Nelson, and I haven't yet talked to you, Grant. And it's not it's not a legal road, it's a part of the park, and we need to sort out the process, and we'll be able to bring that to you for the next meeting of what is the process to name this road.
I do know just from conversations that I've had with other users of Saxton Field, there is always a conversation around how we can acknowledge those that have been involved in the past, and so I think if we are going to go through that process, it would be nice to know how we can acknowledge those that have gone before us or still may be involved, if that is a process we look to go through. Are there any other questions? Councillor Gully, have you got any questions? It's nice to see you here.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll have a wee chat after some of these people.
That's okay. I just wanted to say hello to you, to be fair, because I had seen you in the corner of my eye there, so nice to see you. Very good. All right, so we will now thank you, staff. There are no more questions, and appreciate that there are a number of staff here today from both NCC and TDC, so thank you for all you do at Saxton Field. You make our lives a lot easier with the work you do, so thank you. Kit's happy to move the report, and I'm happy to second it. Is there any debate on that? I don't think so. So all those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Okay, and that will bring the meeting to a close. Now, just to clarify for the committee, we'll just have a quick break before we go into the workshop, and we will discuss the confidential stuff and that shortly. So until then, this meeting's closed.